Good afternoon, friends. Another day working on the scrap shovel, another part to come off, another video to make. One of the comments I got a lot on this motorcycle was, take that ugly crash bar off. And I have to say that I agree totally. I don't like this thing. I don't like how it looks. It doesn't fit with the style of the front end. I think with the skinny wheel and the 41 millimeter front end, this looks goofy in my opinion. I'm sure it was great for somebody. It is nice if you're riding, if you want to get your legs up and stretch yourself out a little bit and log some miles. But as far as aesthetics go, this thing's gross. One of the things I ran into a bunch of times is because my shop space is small, I kept running into these extended pegs and I'd hit them right on my knees. And I have busted both of my knees open on these things. So as you can see, I've already removed the pegs from here because I couldn't stand hitting my knees on them all the time. It didn't matter if I thought about it or not. I was trying to avoid the bike, and ultimately I would end up running into it, forgetting or whatever, and I'd hurt myself. So I took those off first. Often these are called engine guards. You'll see them change names throughout the years. I believe when they first came out back in the, oh my gosh, I think in the 30s, might have even been earlier than that. I'm not sure when engine guards came out. They were called engine guards. You had a front engine guard and I don't remember what the back one was called. Has a name too. I don't remember that, and I apologize for that. My mind's not working right today. But they eventually became called crash guards, and you'll see that in the later models. They're a single piece up front, two piece in the back. On these motorcycles, it was a different design. I don't have them for this bike, so we're not taking those off. But today, we're going to focus on getting this off of the bike. Now, when it comes to removing the crash guard here, it's a pretty simple process. There are 3 mount points. There's one in the front here, one in the front on the other side, and one up top. Obviously, you can see on the older Shovelhead models, if they had floorboards, they had different mount tabs based on their location of mounting. This one obviously has been put on a long time ago using random hardware. So it has a 9/16 stud here, a 1/2 inch bolt there, or 1/2 inch nut there, and a 1/2 inch nut up top. And there's a amalgamation of nuts and spacers in order to mount the cooler as well, and we'll have to address those as we're going. I'm going to start by removing the lower mounts first and leave it hanging from the top mounts because it's easier for me to do it that way. That way, when I am getting ready to take this off, this isn't going to fall and smash into the fender. One of the things you'll notice is if you remove this top stud first and then start loosening these, gravity will pull this down and it will hit the fender. And I'm sure you've all seen fenders with that dent in the back of it. Now that could be for a bunch of reasons, but a lot of times it's because the crash bar itself hit the fender and put a dent inside the fender. So we'll start on the left side of the bike with a 9/16 socket. And I'm not sure how tight these things are or how this is going to go. I assume this is going to fight me a little bit. And thankfully it's not. Obviously, as you can see, the stud that I'm removing here is hooked to a tab which holds your kickstand in place and also mounts your floorboard. So there's a couple pieces going on here all at once. One of the things you'll run into is these crash bars are always tweaked a little bit. And there will be some pressure there, so when you undo the bolt all the way, it will move in a strange way. So you'll almost have to pick the bike up a little bit and then kind of work against it. The big thing you want to be careful with pressing on these floorboards is the floorboard tab is actually the outer primary cover, and you don't want to push on that a whole lot. Often these get busted, and this is part of the reason why. It's not the best design, it's not the strongest point, but if you can avoid breaking this, that's a good thing. Now that this is separated, the bolt has been taken out, you can see there was a lot of pressure there holding that in place, and those 2 points do not line up well. So this may be tweaked. I'm not sure what it is. It could be the mount over on the other side, which is adjustable. It may be out of adjustment. Now onto the right-hand side of the bike, you can see that there's a 1/2 inch bolt here and a nut on the other side, and then there's this bracket here which allows this to mount. I'm not ready to remove the rear master cylinder just yet, so I'm only going to focus on taking off this crash bar. Being that there is a bolt here and a nut here. You need to obviously brace this so that way you can loosen it up. Thankfully, it's not too tight. And as you can see, this was out of adjustment. That was part of the problem. Someone had tried to tip this in all the way to get this to fit properly, and it didn't. So now that I've removed that, you can see everything here was improperly mounted. Obviously, tons of different little spacers and weird things going on here. Next, we'll focus on this top stud here. We're going to remove the cooler first in order to get to the nut on the backside to remove the crash bar itself. So that also is a 1/2 inch stud. And sometimes those will snap off depending on how rusted it is. Thankfully, this one's coming apart fairly nicely. And whoever put this on did this strangely. You'll see this on a lot of old bikes. You'll run into just hardware used, however, it could have been, farm equipment hardware or something from a hardware store or who knows where. And obviously this is, just like any other one that I've worked on. We'll tuck the cooler out of the way. There's a spacer here, and then there's another stud there, or a stud with a nut there. And I'll need a deep socket to get onto that. But this is a stud that runs all the way through, and there actually is another nut on the other side, and it has a lock washer, so we're going to hope that that stays in place. But it's threaded, it's threaded rod, so it's threaded all the way through. It's not a bolt, it's just threaded rod with 2 nuts. With this, I can see that the threaded rod itself is spinning on this side, not the other side. So I'm just going to hold the nut in place and try to hold everything up. This is going to be a little bit of a delicate subject here. So I'm trying to keep the nut on the back side from spinning and get this unthreaded at the same time and not drop it onto the fender. Now that I've got my finger in the back side here, I can actually unthread this nut all the way, which will probably end up dropping on the ground. And then I should be able to just pull the stud and the crash bar is removed. A couple things you'll see on the frame here. This is the front lower tank mount, and this has been repaired a little bit. It's kind of been beat on. It's got a hole in it. And then someone added this bracket up here. I'm not sure what they had in there, but it's well done, kind of poorly, unfortunately. And then the paint, of course, is flaking off here, probably from brake fluid. Typically, brake fluid will eat paint. Well, friends, as you can see, removing a crash bar is fairly simple. It does change the overall look of the bike. I probably should have done that first, so that way you can kind of get an idea of what the bike would have looked like without it. In my opinion, it really streamlines everything. It makes it look a lot cleaner. Even though the bike has floorboards still, I like the look of it without the giant wide crash bar. What are your thoughts? Drop some comments below. Let me know what you think about it. I know most of you have commented saying, take that ugly thing off. Well, now the ugly thing is off and it'll be for sale. Of course, if you like this video, please give it a like, give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions about the process, please drop some comments below. If you know the year that they started putting engine guards or crash guards on these bikes, let me know that as well. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, hit that subscribe button. Watch this bike come apart. Watch it one piece at a time. Well, friends, that's it for this one. We'll catch you next time.